In this video, I have a really cool vehicle which I can't wait to show you. The vehicle I'm going to review is this 2019 Land Rover Discovery SE. This SUV starts at $52,300, but you're going to have to add some options as the base model does not come with many features. This one, luckily, has some cool features packed into it. The Discovery was first introduced as part of the 1989 model year and has been sold till present day. Its main competitors are the Audi Q7 and Volvo XC90. It's a great SUV for what it's worth, and today I'm going to show you why I think so. Under the hood of this Discovery is a 3-liter 24-valve dual overhead cam supercharged V6 engine. This engine is called SI6 and is used by both Land Rover and Volvo. This engine kicks out a monstrous 340 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 332 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 RPM to 5,000 RPM. These are both pretty strong numbers for the base model. A Discovery equipped with this engine does 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds and has a top speed of 130 miles per hour. Our Discovery with this engine is rated at 8,201 pounds for towing. It gets 16 miles per gallon in the city and 21 miles per gallon in the highway with a combined MPG of 18. There is also an optional 3-liter 24-valve turbocharged dual overhead cam V6 diesel engine if you plan on doing some heavy-duty off-roading. This engine is called TD6. If you get this engine option, it will put out 254 horsepower at 3,750 RPM and a hefty 443 pound-feet of torque at 1,750 RPM to 2,250 RPM. A vehicle equipped with this engine hits 60 miles per hour in 7.7 seconds and also has a top speed of 130 miles per hour. With this engine, a Discovery can tow up to 7,716 pounds, about 500 pounds less than the gasoline engine. A Land Rover Discovery equipped with this engine gets about 21 miles per gallon in the city and 26 miles per gallon in the highway with a combined MPG of 23. All trims get an 8-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters, and that is the only transmission option for this vehicle. This SUV comes with 4-wheel drive as standard. Moving on to the exterior of the SUV, I want to first talk about the headlights because they look awesome. There are 4 individual LED lights in the middle and an LED light that runs around it. That LED light also turns orange when the indicator is turned on and is a really cool look. I also like how the word Discovery is printed in big bold letters in the front, showing how much of an off-roader it is. There are also these functional air vents in the front that make it look aggressive. The color of this Discovery is called Nordic Black. The 4 different trim levels for this vehicle are SE, Landmark Edition, HSE, and HSE Luxury. Moving around to the side, the roof still has a little kink in it like in previous generations. This Discovery also has keyless entry on all 4 doors, which is expected from an SUV of this class. This Land Rover has mirrors that fold in and out automatically. And at night, they project an image of a Land Rover Discovery. A little Easter egg I found in the Discovery was the fact that the same image of the Land Rover projected by the mirrors is found on the B-pillar when you open both doors. This Discovery is on 19-inch alloy wheels and has a lot of ground clearance. There's also a Discovery logo here and a Land Rover logo here on either sides of the SUV. Moving around to the back, the word Discovery is printed on the liftgate. There, underneath the Land Rover logo, it says SI6. I'm sure most owners don't know what this badge means. It's a badge for the type of engine this vehicle has. This one has the supercharged V6 engine. Also, the taillights have a really cool look to them. You can't even see the bulbs inside. I like the look of the rear spoiler on this vehicle, as well as how it hides the rear windshield wiper and third brake light. Lastly, there's a washer for the backup camera that activates whenever you turn on the rear windshield washer. Overall, this vehicle has a tall, wide, and handsome look that will stand out from the crowd. Moving on to the interior, the materials used are excellent for this price point. The dash is all soft touch, and there's this foam-like material that they put here instead of cheap hard plastic. There's a gloss black trim that runs through the dash and door panels of the Discovery, though if you upgrade to a higher trim level, you can get it in a wood finish. The infotainment system is very high quality and high resolution. Land Rover cheaped out a bit on this panel in front of the center console, as it is just plastic with the exception of the parking brake lever, which is aluminum. Even the gear selector feels like something that would belong in a really high-end luxury car. One thing that's worth mentioning is that the Land Rover logo is engraved in a panel below the gear selector, but above the terrain response system buttons. The dials for the climate control system feel very good to turn. The steering wheel too looks and feels like something that would belong in a more expensive vehicle, with the exception of these small, plastic paddle shifters. The front door panels also have the same foam-like material carried over from the dashboard along with the gloss black trim. The interior door handles, for some reason, are placed very low where your hands will never go when opening a car door from the inside. Moving on to the second row, quality starts to deteriorate, but not as much as you'd think. Sure, the back of the center console is made up of cheap plastic, but no compromises were made for the quality of the rear door panels. Even though the materials used in some places aren't that good, they are forgivable considering the price of the SUV and the fact that Land Rover nailed the other aspects of the interior. In terms of storage areas, there are plenty of them in this cabin. In the front, there's a secondary glove box that opens when you push this button. There are two pockets on the backs of the driver and passenger seats that crush whatever you put in there. There are also two storage areas in the back with lids. You just press this button to open it. The only problem is that this is a 5-seater SUV and there is no third row. It's only useful on the 3-row 7-seater models. Same goes for the rear moonroof and reading lights. This Land Rover can be spec'd to come with up to 9 USB ports, which is just overkill. I also want to discuss one of my favorite things about this vehicle, and that is the fact that it has a web browser. Yes, that's right, a web browser. We now live in an era of cars, where we have the ability to search the internet on our vehicle's infotainment system. The only problem with it is that it's a bit slow, but that also depends on the Wi-Fi or data connection. This was made possible with the use of a SIM card, which you can insert into a slot in the center console. You can also connect the vehicle to an external Wi-Fi connection if you don't have a SIM card to browse the internet. Speaking of Wi-Fi, the SUV's built-in hotspot allows you to connect up to 8 devices to the vehicle. I also like that this SUV has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Another thing I want to talk about is this Land Rover's navigation system. It's so simple and easy to use. If you click this button, you can select what you want displayed on the right side of the screen along with how you want the map to be displayed. If you click this button with the 6 squares on it, you can set a destination, cancel the guidance, and do many more things. One useful feature of this navigation system is called My Commute. This system will learn all the routes that you take on your commute. The system will then use a different route if there's a problem on your regular route in order to get you to your destination as fast as possible. It even has Google Maps built into it. Also, the name of whatever road you're on shows up on the right side of the screen when you're on a different page. And since this is a British SUV, you have the option to set the guidance voice to have a British accent when giving directions.
After 0.1 mile, turn right onto Tingley Lane.
Overall, this navigation system is not laggy and is very easy to use. You can even check where your flight is at in your Land Rover as well as check the weather, news, and more. Another one of my favorite features of this vehicle is the fact that it can park itself. Now, I'm not a big fan of all the self-driving stuff, but it's the first time I saw something like this in person and it was very cool to use. It can get in and out of parallel parking spots and reverse into perpendicular parking spots. This vehicle does not have a 360 degrees camera, but rather 360 degrees parking sensors, also called 360 degrees PDC. There are also two moonroofs inside this Land Rover that are automatic and open and close when you press the button once. They also close when you turn the vehicle off and open to the same exact position when you turn it on. An example of attention to detail in this Discovery is the fact that the gear selector goes up when you turn the SUV on and down when you turn it off. There is also a 4x4 eye system for when you go off-roading. When I click on off-road information, it will tell me important off-road information at any given moment. The first page is called Wheel Information. It shows your wheel angle, gear, and which tires have lost traction in this vehicle. But on one with air suspension and locking differentials, it shows the amount of suspension travel and which differentials are locked. When I click on the second icon, it takes me to a page called Slope Assist. This page shows the SUV's pitch and roll at any given moment, which is helpful when going off-roading. The third page is called Compass, and it shows the temperature, compass. The fourth and last page gives me a paragraph or two on all 4 drive modes. When I click on the Low Traction Launch button, it takes me to a page asking me if I want to enable it. If I enable it, it will manage the throttle to get me out of low traction situations from a standstill, such as accelerating from snow, mud, or ice. This Discovery also tells me its dimensions in both meters and feet, which is very helpful when going off-roading or if you're unsure whether you'll fit through tight spaces. Fun fact, the Land Rover Discovery is 2 inches taller than a Chevy Suburban or a Cadillac Escalade. The Discovery also comes with valet mode, which just goes to show how high-end this vehicle is. This vehicle also gets live updates from Land Rover, which is pretty cool. And even though this Discovery gets 16 miles per gallon in the city, it is still economical because of the system called EcoData. It gives me tips on how to economically manage the accelerator pedal, speed and engine, and braking. When I click on Energy Impact, it tells me what I can do to conserve fuel. It also shows me my past trips when I click on History, as well as my highest score. Along with 3 individual scores on top, it gives an average score based on how well I'm driving. Also, when I go into Settings and click on General and then Screensaver, I can select the picture that shows up when the infotainment display is turned off. My options are either the Land Rover logo or images from different perspectives of a Land Rover Discovery. When I click on Features and then click on Climate Control, I can decide whether I want the AC to be soft and quiet, balanced, or powerful and fast when I turn on automatic climate controls. When I go into the home page, I can choose what wallpaper I want in my Land Rover Discovery screen. I decided to choose the one with trees. One funny thing I noticed was that when I clicked on Settings and then changed the display to its day setting, I can barely even see the trees. Also, this infotainment system is very customizable. I can add icons and widgets wherever there's a plus sign. Overall, this is a very good infotainment system, and even though it's not one of the best, it still offers a lot of features, customability, and resolution for what the vehicle's worth. One thing that I don't like about this vehicle is the fact that it doesn't have heated or cooled seats. It also doesn't have memory seats, a virtual cockpit, ambient lighting, or rear sunshades. The air conditioning system of this vehicle is not very powerful. Also, these numbers have all sorts of lines going through them, which gives the display a really cool look. This is the center display in the gauge cluster of a 2019 Land Rover Discovery. You can get seatbelt warnings in this vehicle, which makes you wonder why many vehicles don't have them. When there's a warning in the gauge cluster screen, it displays the amount of fuel you have as a percentage. There's also a button called LIM, which limits your speed to whatever you set it to so that you don't break the speed limit. This Land Rover also comes with a favorite button, and you can program its functionality to whatever you want. You can also program it so that when you press it for a long or short amount of time, it will perform different functions. One downside of having gloss black for the steering wheel buttons is that I can see all the blank buttons when some light shines on it. This Discovery also has voice control, and it has a wide variety of commands that I can say. One cool thing about the steering wheel buttons is the fact that it changes its display based on what page you're on in the gauge cluster. I also like how the steering wheel says Discovery instead of just showing the Land Rover logo. This Land Rover comes with many features such as lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic detection, front collision assist, and a driver monitoring system. There's also adaptive cruise control as expected in a vehicle like this. The light controls in the front are all touch, which is pretty cool. There are also these weird armrests for both the driver and passenger seats. When you move the armrest and turn the knob, it just stays there. Land Rover has been doing this for quite some time now, and it's a very odd feature. Another odd and unusual thing is that the passenger can lock the vehicle, but can't unlock it. Only the driver can unlock the doors. Also, take a listen to this warning chime. It's very different and luxurious. Lastly, if you press both mirror control buttons at once, the mirrors fold, which is a neat little trick. Moving on to the second row, there's no screen to control the AC. Instead, it's all controlled from the front and comes out of the vents from either sides of the B-pillars. Space isn't much of a concern in the second row or anywhere in this cabin, as the inside of this vehicle is huge. The lights aren't touch in the second row, but there is a blind spot monitoring system for the rear passengers. When a car is passing by, a light will turn on, alerting the passengers not to open the door, which is very useful if you parked on the side of the road. Lastly, the center console lid flips and becomes a tray for the rear passengers, which is very convenient. At last, we move on to the trunk. There's an inner power tailgate that deploys when you press this button. There's also a storage area underneath the load floor, which you can use to hide stuff. I also want to discuss about the terrain response system. The first drive mode is called Comfort, and that obviously is for normal, everyday driving. Then there's the second drive mode, which is called Grass, Gravel, Snow. This mode is used for driving on a firm surface with loose or slippery material covering it. The third mode is called Mud Ruts, and it is used when driving on terrain that is muddy, rutted, soft, or uneven. The last drive mode is called rock crawl, and it is used when driving on rocky terrain. Lastly, this vehicle has hill descent control. This Discovery also has a sport mode, but is not part of the terrain response system. There isn't anything interesting about the owner's manual except for the fact that it says this vehicle is prone to a rollover risk. It also says that it's not designed to corner like a regular passenger car, any more than a sports car is not designed to go off-road. This is the Land Rover Discovery key, and it's very heavy and high quality. There isn't anything interesting about it other than the fact that I can turn the approach lights on and off. To conclude, the Land Rover Discovery is an SUV that you should definitely consider when buying a vehicle in this class. If you plan on going off-roading a lot, then you should choose this SUV over its competitors because that's where it really shines. Plus, if you do decide to get it, you can still have an upscale interior and lots of features. It has a very good exterior and interior design. This vehicle also accelerates pretty quickly, but is not good for cornering at high speeds. Despite this, it still is an excellent SUV to buy today. ISOFIX. 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 ISOFIX.